Chinese President Xi Jinping joins leaders of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization for a virtual summit. We'll discuss this year's top priorities. Hello, I'm Ahmed, and this is The Heat. India hosted leaders of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization for a virtual summit on Tuesday. Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered a keynote speech and the group welcomed Iran as its newest member. We begin our coverage with this report from CGTN's Dongshu in Beijing.
Chinese President Xi Jinping vows to strengthen strategic communication and coordination among SCO member countries. President Xi was addressing a virtual leaders summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a political and security union of countries spanning much of Eurasia. Formed in 2001 by China, Russia, and the Central Asian countries, the body has expanded to include India and Pakistan. And this year, with Iran's membership to be formalized soon, the objective is to play a larger role as a counterweight to Western influence in the region. President Xi said the world today is full of chaos and changes unseen in a century are accelerating. Human society is facing unprecedented challenges, unity or division, peace or conflict, cooperation or confrontation, calling instead for win-win cooperation. And only through continuous development and cooperation can a better life for humanity be realized. Cooperation can lead to achievements, he said, adding that nations need to support each other and to respect their own core interests in order to hold their futures and destinies in their own hands. With a broader agenda encompassing regional development and global governance, President Xi emphasized that upholding peace and promoting development in the Eurasian continent is a shared goal among countries in the region and the world at large. The SCO shoulders the important responsibility of achieving this goal. The current geopolitical landscape is in flux, and China is moving toward the center stage, envision a new multipolar world order. President Xi's focus is on fostering an international community with a shared future of all humanity. President Xi said China is willing to implement the Global Development Initiative to continue economic globalization and to fight against protectionism and unilateral sanctions in order to benefit more people. China looks to the SCO, which represents nearly half of the world's population, to carry forward the Shanghai spirit and contribute to global and regional peace and development in the face of the changing geopolitical landscape. This year also marks the 10th anniversary of China's Belt and Road Initiative, and a leaders' summit will be held as well. President Xi reiterated the significance of promoting free trade and investment and of ensuring stable supply chains so that the benefits of the initiative would be shared by people in all nations. Dongshu, CGTN, Beijing.
For more now on the SCO summit, let's bring in our panel. Joining us from Moscow is Dmitry Babich. He's a Russian journalist and political analyst. Here in Washington, D.C., Chidanand Rajghatta is the foreign editor and U.S. bureau chief of the Times of India. From Shanghai, Zoon Ahmed is a research fellow with the Center for China and Globalization, and Victor Gao is chair professor with Soochow University in Beijing. He joins us from Vienna. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. Victor Gao, as we heard, President Xi called for solidarity, mutual trust, development and cooperation among members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It was a meeting that covered a wide range of issues. What is your overall assessment?
Thank you very much. I think the SCO's virtual summit is taking place right away at a very important crossroad in human history. I think what SCO stands for is to promote stability, cooperation, friendship, constructive engagement of all countries and on equal basis, rather than allowing any single country try to subjugate other countries to its will or to its dictates. I think SCO represents the future of the world, and eventually there will be more and more countries interested in joining, in addition to the latest member, that is Iran. Therefore, I think SCO is evolving. It is expanding very rapidly. It is also increasing in its functionalities and responsibilities. And I think it will remain at its core mission, that is to promote stability, cooperation, friendship, engagement, and constructive relations of all countries.
Yeah.
And again, this will be the true megatrend of our time.
Victor, the SCO is not an economic organization like the European Union or a military organization like NATO. It's an intergovernmental organization. As it is structured right now, do you think it is an effective counterweight to Western influence?
Well, first of all, SCO itself is evolving and it is expanding in its functionalities and responsibilities. What it is not today may not be the case by tomorrow. And I think either in terms of all kinds of corporations involving in, for example, climate change, environmental considerations, AI standardizations of all kinds, and cross-border trade, or, for example, more focus on security arrangement and corporations of all kinds, exercises among member states, for example, I think SCO is only increasing its functionalities and responsibilities. So I think the rest of the world should be prepared to see SCO taking on more responsibilities in the coming years.
Dmitry Babich, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, he attended the virtual summit as well. President Putin welcomed the SCO's newest member, that is Iran. Here's what President Putin had to say. Let's listen.
The Islamic Republic of Iran will now participate in our organization in a fully fledged format. And I want to sincerely congratulate you on this and sincerely greet the President of Iran, Mr. Raisi. In less than 2 years, the Iranian partners have completed all the necessary procedures. And now our common task is to help our colleagues to effectively integrate into the multifaceted work being carried out within the framework of the Shanghai Organization. Russia also stands for the speedy completion of the process of accession to the SCO of the Republic of Belarus.
So, Dmitry, we have Iran in 2023, Belarus in 2024. At a time when the West is doing its utmost to isolate China, what does an expanding SCO mean to Moscow?
Well, it is a very important window to the world for Moscow. And just as we heard from Victor Gao, there are optimists in Russia who say that SCO should be a regional organization, not some kind of anti-NATO. These are not my words. This is what was said today by Fyodor Lukyanov, one of the prominent members of Russia's, Defense and Foreign Policy Council. A very important think tank. Usually Mr. Lukyanov chairs the sections, or moderates the sections of conferences where Mr. Putin speaks, our president speaks. So Mr. Lukyanov said that only Russia and China have problem with the West among the members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So he is optimistic. He thinks that retaining this kind of peaceful attitude, SCO can avoid becoming what he called anti-NATO. Fyodor Lukyanov is my friend, so he knows that sometimes I disagree with him. I wish it were so, but as you rightly said, the United States is isolating China. It's not only Russia and Iran who have problem with the West now. It is China, and in the very near future it's going to be India, and certainly Belarus. The West is also trying to isolate Belarus. It is sometimes done in a very indecent way, such as prohibiting Belarusian athletes from participating in international contests. Ukraine just said recently that it won't participate in any contests where Russian and Belarusian athletes will take part. So this is all noted by the people here. So public opinion is also important. All of that brings me to the conclusion that despite the optimism that we hear from Mr. Lukyanov, from the president of Kazakhstan, who certainly doesn't want to be an enemy of anyone and who wants Kazakhstan to be both a friend of China and of the United States, at some moment the members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization will have to choose. The West will make them choose, not Russia, not China. The West, which is now, unfortunately, controlled by a very radical ideology, for which there are no honest opponents. There are only friends who agree with the West 100%.
Yeah.
There are enemies. These are the people and countries who disagree. And there are enemies, useful idiots, people who are just misled and who are viciously misled. So in this situation, I'm not so optimistic as Mr. Gao, unfortunately.
Okay, Chidanand, this summit, this virtual summit, was hosted by India. India, of course, joined the SCO in 2017. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urged members of the SCO to fight jointly terrorism and tackle global challenges. And among those global challenges he mentioned was things like food security, securing fuel supply chains, fertilizer supply chains as well. It was an opportunity for India, again, to showcase its growing international profile. So in that respect, did Modi deliver?
To an extent, yes. The fact is, it's an important platform. But look, I mean, this was a virtual summit. And the fact that Prime Minister Modi, as the host nation, went in for a virtual format suggests that there is no great passion. So unfortunately, much as its objectives and ideals are commendable, right now the SCO is a very strange beast. It has the head of a bear, it has features of a dragon, it has the legs of a camel. It's a very strange animal. And some of the fundamental principles, enshrined, which the SCO seeks to pursue, for instance, territorial integrity. I mean, you have nations within the SCO which accuse each other of not respecting territorial integrity. And India has a problem with what it's called China's expansionism. Pakistan and India have territorial issues, and dare I even point out at Russia's problems with Ukraine. So right now, it does not appear in any way or form a coherent organization. Also remember that Prime Minister Modi has just returned from what was, from all accounts, a very successful visit to the United States, and India is hosting a G20 summit later this year. So in comparison, I think India right now has been seduced by the bigger world stage. Right now, I don't see a great deal of passion for SCO. Although, like I said, its objectives are commendable. It is, after all, it represents something like 45 to 50% of the world population. I did not see a great deal of, passion. Countries within the SCO have severe problems. And it's not, I think, sufficient to have an anti-West orientation. At the end of the day, every country in the world is now reaching out. The number of acronyms of organizations is starting to get bewildering. You have BRICS and you have Quad and you have SCO, and every nation is trying to expand its outreach and influence.
Right.
And SCO is one forum right now for India.
Okay. Well, focusing on the SCO, yeah, I heard your points made about the differences that member states might have between themselves, but doesn't it make the SCO then give it a role that it becomes an organization that tries to overcome these challenges?
Absolutely. That should be the drive, but these are not easy challenges. A lot of it has to be resolved bilaterally. To be honest, I don't see an immediate resolution to say for the India-Pakistan problem, and I don't see what role SCO will have in that. It's a bilateral issue. In fact, in a joint statement they started to work on today, I don't know what was the outcome, but when I last checked, India had a problem with China's BRI, and because it passes through territory which India regards as being occupied by Pakistan. So there are fundamental differences, and the territorial integrity part is a bone in the throat for many countries. Let's face it, right now, Russia also loves the platform simply because it allows it a forum to express its views on the whole Ukraine conflict, where its opinion is largely shaped by the West.
All right, let me get a quick view on your points from Victor Gar. Victor?
Well, as I emphasized, the SCO itself is evolving. And people need to be prepared that SCO may take on more responsibilities. Now, the fact that member states of SCO may disagree on other things, especially in their bilateral relations, but still remain members of SCO, actually speaks loudly to the resilience of the SCO and its flexibility. And I think the fact that you can have a regional organization which both Pakistan and India as members speak loudly about the strength and the resilience of SCO, and it should be complemented rather than being marginalized.
All right, Zoon, great to have you with us. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif called for engagement in Afghanistan. Let's listen to what he said at the summit.
The international community currently finds itself in a standstill with Afghanistan. The cascade of unmet expectations has meant that critical support needed by Afghanistan to ward off a grave humanitarian crisis, prevent an economic meltdown, and to combat terrorism has been withheld. This policy needs an urgent reset. The international community should meaningfully engage with the interim Afghan government to take the next steps.
So, Zoon, Pakistan wants to prevent Afghanistan from becoming something of a springboard for terrorism. How critical is a stable Afghanistan to the Eurasia region? And, you know, what role do you see? Can the SCO play a role in this?
Thank you, Anand, firstly, for having me on the panel. You know, honestly, the relationship between Afghanistan and Pakistan, even historically and in recent decades, has been what many people refer to as symbiotic. Instability and uncertainty in Afghanistan affects Pakistan and vice versa. So for Pakistan, you know, obviously, firstly, Afghanistan is a priority country to extensively, meaningfully engage with, and a priority country to have stability, like any other, two neighbors should have. And also, if we also look at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, we look at the vision of North-South connectivity within the organization. We look at the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. We look at Pakistan's plans for regional connectivity. Afghanistan is integral to all of that. So absolutely, I mean, there is a consensus among all political parties in Pakistan. Pakistan has tried also to mobilize the OIC platform, raise awareness, and try and engage the international community in any way possible to reflect and to think about how can we help Afghanistan in the current situation. That said, I mean, of course, we know that there were some recent misunderstandings, but we also have some commitments from the Afghan side that they will try to address Pakistan's concerns. And as far as the SCO is concerned, you know, I'll try and connect this with some basic points that were also covered by the previous panelists. Personally, I am an optimist about the SCO, and that's because, like even Victor Gao pointed out, it is a platform that is creating the space for alternatives and regional solutions and creating an incentive for regional connectivity for countries, be it Pakistan, be it Central Asian, and now with Iran's and obviously India's participation as well. I mean, the incentive for all of these countries to at least within the organization build a consensus, like our panelists of Indian origin also mentioned, that even though Pakistan and India have differences, but we are in a way even forced to think about the commonalities because of the SCO platform. And likewise, the Afghanistan situation is something that affects all current member states of the SCO. So absolutely, I mean, I think the SCO is helping at least develop some kind of consensus. What the SCO also achieves is to initiate and encourage some bilateral coordination. For example, between Pakistan and Iran, initiated by China, there's a recent commitment to improve counterterrorism and to improve our ability, right? So, and I'll also lastly add, I mean, on the point of the significance of the SCO, I think it's not, it is, as you mentioned, an intergovernmental organization, but it is an organization that is helping, especially, in a multifaceted way, countries that had fewer options previously think about the region. And again, like Victor Gao also pointed out, the fact that the organization is expanding, the fact that, now you have Iran, which extends the organization's connectivity towards the Middle Eastern region, where we already have dialogue partners and observers, and also hopefully Belarus's membership towards European connectivity. This is an organization that is expanding because it offers solutions that are critical for the region. And as many had unfortunately predicted, that SCO might be Sarkified as a result of it. That did not happen. What we see is that both countries, despite differences, continue to find avenues to work together.
Right.
So it's definitely affirmative action.
Right. Dmitry, we were talking a moment ago about the West trying to isolate Russia. I mean, Russia has now been targeted with probably the harshest sanctions that any single country has ever been subjected to. Most of the world has not taken part in those sanctions. During Tuesday's talks, both China and Russia indicated they want the SCO to do more. In fact, President Xi and President Putin support trading now in their national currencies, and that's an effort to circumvent using the United States dollar for international trade. How will that impact Russia?
Well, certainly it's a move in the positive direction. Not using dollar, but using renminbi and ruble and other national currencies for trade exchanges between countries. There was a lot of talk even about a special currency for Shanghai Cooperation Organization. That is still not realistic at the moment, but I'm sure that in future such a currency may be created. And this will be very good news for international trade, because monopoly is always bad. Monopoly is what makes people poor. And the dollar monopoly, I think it did more to harm international trade than to help it, especially because of the foreign policy of the United States. In that sense, I completely agree with Victor Gao and with Zoon Ahmed Khan. I think it's a very interesting development. Look, for example, Russia and Turkey historically bitter enemies for many centuries. We had diametrically opposed views on the future of Syria in 2011 when the civil war broke out there. But little by little, we cooperate. We started cooperating, and we do now something together to bring peace to Syria. It is the West that keeps sanctioning Syria, keeps strangling it economically. Iran and Turkey, again, historically bitter enemies, work together on Syria. In Shanghai Cooperation Organization, having at the same table China and India and Pakistan, these are all good signs for humanity. Right. It shows that even the so-called geopolitical conflicts, they are not fatal. We are not doomed to fighting each other until the end of the world. What is really dangerous today is the ideological hostility. What we face from the West is not, it's not determined by the interests of Western countries. It is ideological hostility, this division of the world into democracies and autocracies. And unfortunately, democracies are shutting off their borders to our athletes, shutting off their borders to scientists from the countries they don't like. Democracies, so-called democracies, are now strangling international trade and prohibit nations to trade with each other. I'm talking about so-called secondary sanctions, when the United States punishes the country that trade with Russia. Maybe in future it will punish the countries that trade with China.
All right.
So it's a very interesting picture that we see.
I am rapidly running out of time, Dmitry. I want to get to Chidanand. Chidanand, you pointed out a moment ago that Prime Minister Modi was recently in the United States. Of course, he got the red carpet treatment here from President Biden. The two countries also agreed on a number of defense and technology issues, on cooperation there. Prime Minister Modi will also be going to France for the Bastille Day celebrations on July 14th. But if we look at India's place in this, I mean, how much of a tightrope walk is this for India? It's straddling, on the one hand, the West and Eurasia, isn't it?
It's a tightrope walk, but believe me, I mean, India is perfectly capable of pulling this off. I mean, remember, throughout the Cold War, I mean, despite, problems with the United States, India kept at it. India has maintained good relations with Russia even today. Russia continues to be a key partner, particularly in defense purchases, even though India's defense purchases are spread out. I mean, tomorrow, if there are South American countries which form a group and invite India, India will join them because, I mean, I think philosophically, India now believes that it has to engage with every part of the world, with every organization. Therefore, it's a member of, BRICS, it's a member of Quad. So, yeah, I mean, I think India is used to this situation. It navigated, its way through the Cold War very deftly. And look, I am an optimist about SCO, but I'm also a realist. And outside of the security issues that countries have with each other, economically, there's much to look forward to. I mean, particularly, the de-dollarization that my preceding panelists just mentioned. I think that's a very important, movement. There are several other positive including food security. And yeah, I mean, this is an organization which now represents, almost half of humanity, and I believe it has a very positive future. But we have to be very real about this. They have real problems, security problems, and that is going to take a long time to resolve. The fact that they're sitting together despite that, yeah, that's terrific. At the top of this hour, actually, Anand, the package that you ran, do you know it was anchored out of Beijing simply because India and China, the world's two largest countries, don't have a single journalist in each other's capital. The last Indian journalist has left Beijing. The last Chinese journalist has left New Delhi, and that to me is not a good sign. The fact that two countries of 1.1 billion people each don't have a journalist representing any organization in either this country, that does not speak well. I hope things change.
Zoon, I've only got a little bit of time left, less than a minute, but I was wondering if you could address the whole BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, contribution to the kinds of cooperation that we're seeing.
Within the SCO? Well, I think, even President Xi Jinping mentioned how the Belt and Road it's the 10th anniversary of the BRI. It's focused on holistic development, the GDI, GSI, and GCI. On development, security, and civilization are also linked with the Belt and Road Initiative, and they're important for the connectivity vision that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has. I think obviously being a realist and being also optimistic about the role the SCO is playing is important because it is changing our fundamental perspective on how we can move forward. No countries, no regions have been incapable in history to resolve the misunderstandings and the differences they have. Of course, countries within the SCO, particularly China, India, Pakistan, could have an equation that was more conducive. But that said, the SCO is part of the solution. It's definitely not stoking the problem.
Okay, that's where we have to leave it. Thanks to all of you for being with us. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C.